So we grew 5x through last year, and that was because, well, many reasons, but to answer your question about kind of the role of technology, people realised that actually they were living very isolated lives, and in a time of a pandemic it's very instinctive actually to want to reach out and connect with your local community, to help people or to receive help.
We're going to go to the first question. I'm going to go to you, Alex, because you've got the mic. So it's a pretty broad question. It's like, okay, we're just coming out of a pandemic. It's great to be here, but let's just talk about that for a second. How did your business mission survive during the pandemic? And did technology help with that? I mean, if you answer, yes, we did a lot of Zoom calls, that's cheating. But you know, how else did you survive during the pandemic, and what was technology's role in that, if it was?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think there's a couple of things. So the first is that when it hit, like everyone else, I think we sort of went through this phase of thinking, well, what does it do? What does it mean for our customers? And we work with lots of different stakeholders. We work with employers, we work with government, we work with charities, we work with landlords. But first and foremost, we work with our beneficiaries who need the service. On average, they've been out of work 5.5 years. They start jobs with us almost 80% of the time, and we really wanted to make sure that we could continue to deliver an amazing service for them. And of course, people's immediate needs changed very rapidly. For a start, people could no longer go and become a plumber because the plumbing training centres were shut. So the first thing we realised is that actually we needed to meet people's immediate and urgent needs. So we kind of repurposed our technology, and we used our crowdfunding platform to fund and deliver emergency items for people. So that was what we did in the immediate couple of months when in the first lockdown, and we were delivering hundreds of care packages containing sanitary items and food and tablets so children could continue their education, and dozens of other things to families, predominantly in London. So that was the first thing we did. The second thing was we realised that actually there are loads of roles. They were just different roles. And so we started working with employers that became an ever more crucial part of this new infrastructure. So it was healthcare assistants in the NHS, it was delivery drivers for Amazon, it was different types of roles that were suddenly urgently needed to keep all of us generally lucky people going. And then the third thing we did was to really sort of invest more in our technology. So if you had come into Beam's office before the pandemic, it would have looked a little bit like a GP surgery. You would have seen lots of kids, lots of mums sitting patiently on chairs waiting for their appointment at Beam. The experience today is completely different. It's an experience that is delivered totally through people's smartphones. And we make sure that if someone doesn't have a smartphone, then we get a smartphone for them. And for us, that's a really exciting development, because it means we can deliver social care employment services to people way cheaper than previously. It's also way more accessible for people. And it's also teaching them new digital skills as well that they need for their job, whatever that may be. So yeah, quite a huge impact. But yeah, I think all in all, I guess I'm really proud of the team in sort of how they dealt with a very difficult time.
I mean, it sounds like there was opportunity in the changing environment during the pandemic that led to you going, oh, we need to just go in this direction for jobs. And it's great to hear that the technology just solved that kind of problem of engagement with people, but also made it safe during the pandemic, I guess, as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, cool, great. Okay, Tess, what about you?
So when the pandemic hit, it was deeply unclear whether a neighbour-to-neighbour food sharing app could continue to exist. So it was a pretty fraught time. Sasha and I, my co-founder, we were determined that Olio was going to exist, and most importantly, we spoke to our community, and they told us that we had a responsibility to keep operating. So we very quickly spoke to our food safety lawyer, environmental health officer, and implemented, sort of within 24 hours really, a sort of no contact pickup model, which and sort of put communications throughout the product governing how people should kind of use Olio to be safe and compliant. And then we had about a kind of 20% drop of activity for the first 2 weeks, and then from kind of mid-April onwards, we have experienced hockey stick growth. So we grew 5x through last year. And that was because, well, many reasons, but to answer your question about kind of the role of technology, people realised that actually they were living very isolated lives, and in a time of a pandemic it's very instinctive actually to want to reach out and connect with your local community to help people or to receive help. And Olio is a really kind of safe and easy and inclusive way for people to be able to connect with their local community. So we saw rapid growth in the business, and then we also were able to, when the schools closed, my kids said to me in the kitchen that morning when I told them there's no school from tomorrow, as part of that conversation they said to me, what's going to happen with the kids that rely upon free school meals, because that's something we've kind of discussed as a family. And I kind of felt this sort of gut punch, and I thought, shit, what is going to happen to those kids? Figured out that there's like 1.3 million children who as of Monday were not going to necessarily have access to food. And I thought, we've got to do something. We have actually got a platform here. So why don't we galvanise our community and get them cooking for kids? And so within 26 hours, we rolled out a campaign, enlisted the support of 20 celebrity chefs, and got our community cooking and preparing packed lunches for kids. And so I think that for me demonstrates technology alone can't do anything, actually, really, but technology combined with people can be transformational.
I think you're preaching to the converted in this room. We know technology is just an enabler. But it's really great to hear that it was able to help you quickly solve a challenge that just kind of came on us all overnight, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Yeah. All right, Chris. What about you? And I'm guessing you're going to have to use the word Zoom in here somewhere. But how did you find that your? I mean, you started this role during the pandemic, right? So how did that go?
I did. So I joined the business in November. So I sort of come in as a CEO into a mental health business. In the middle of a pandemic where you're not meeting anybody face to face. It's been an interesting experience. But yeah, I mean, it's probably worth talking. I mean, we've all seen the stats, we've all experienced the last 18 months, but I genuinely feel like we're at the cusp of a tsunami of mental health issues that are going to start cascading through. All the stats are out there in terms of 60% of your teams will be feeling different and worse from their mental health perspective than they were 18 months ago. So I think we're at the cusp of some dangerous situations that are going to start arising. And yeah, we recently commissioned a piece of work, 300 HR professionals, our 40 coaches, to sort of listen to like what are the issues that are coming up, and combination of anxiety as we sort of return, burnout. The stats around us working 10 hours versus 8.5 hours a day. We're all experiencing that. And then the uncertainty, this paradox of choice. Should I come down here today? Do I shake somebody's hand while I'm in the room? All those feelings that we've all experienced probably here this evening as well. So, for me, I think like the role of businesses and the role now of you as leaders to be supporting employees coming out of this pandemic. We pivoted virtually, so we were in person, and we moved to a virtual model, but we'll be returning back to in person. Because I think to your question around technology, I think technology has had a damaging effect across us all. I think if I speak for myself, how many times over the last 18 months I've lived inside my head rather than leading with my heart. So because I'm not having that engagement, we've had thousands, millions of years of evolution where we're sort of meeting face to face and learn how to react, to respond, to be human with each other, and suddenly we're doing it through a screen, and I think that worries me. That worries me in terms of the rhetoric that's going around the benefits of remote, but I don't think we're really living with what it means to be human. So for me, we're a human-first organisation supported by tech. You'll see loads of organisations in the mental health space going, I've got an app, talk to somebody, ask me a few questions. I think it's bullshit. I think it's, the transformational work is about one-to-one, human-to-human work. So that's what we're here for, that's what we're standing for. So you as leaders, you need to be thinking, if it's not on your table today, how are you supporting your employees?
Great. Well, there you go. There's a bit of a different point of view where tech's not necessarily the right answer, right? Do you want to pass back to Elliot? So what are your thoughts on this, Elliot? How's technology in the pandemic helped you or not?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like 2 years since our launch, so most of that is pandemic-y. But before that, when there's like a heat wave, and then we saw that this massive influx of new customers for us, or subscribers and members, and then Extinction Rebellion would be on the streets and like massive thing, and Greta would do her thing and big influx, and it's really interesting. I think we were kind of in a unique position to actually see the impact those sorts of headline generating things actually happen. They're massive catalysts for change, but those went away, and it was a different set of issues, relying on kind of other paid media channels and all sorts. It was really interesting, and God, trying to raise money and like investment in the midst of like the world falling apart. It's just, don't want to do that again. Yeah, it was absolutely terrible. But what happened during that time is allow integrations to happen, because the internet was booming, and we released this kind of Shopify plugin, for example. There's like 1 million e-commerce stores that are powered by something called Shopify, and for every product sold, you could plant 10 trees or whatever. So we went through to the integrations route because we did this we realized that these amazing trees that we're planting in Madagascar that are protected for the next 30 years only really cost like 12p. Maybe other people and businesses in the world want to integrate into any business that they can think of. Like, how do they get climate action into the things that they're doing? And so now we've got this thing on the Shopify store, for example, and it just grows. So now we have like tens of thousands of trees planted every day just through this thing. So it was a good thing to kind of force us to kind of get involved with.
Yeah, that sounds great. I want to hand the mic back for a second. Okay, so thanks for that. Anybody else sitting there thinking, God, I'm just not doing enough? I'm sitting here, I'm thinking about the good things that my company does, thinking about the things I do in my family life, my personal life. I'm an okay kind of guy. But Jesus, it's tough sitting next to these guys.